Guys, one of my favorite things I've done to my TJ has been the drop down tailgate. It's been probably the most useful thing I've done. Of course, the rear 8.8 is nice, and the extra lift and all that's real nice, but this has been the most useful. I'm sitting on it right now, weigh 260 pounds, as solid as can be. I went through some growing pains on designing and creating it because I kind of did it on the fly. Well, I very much did it on the fly. I didn't have a clue what I was doing. I didn't have a clue what I was doing for YouTube's sake either, because I was just videotaping my phone, no editing, and just slapping it together in parts. And I think it was about 4 parts. 5 if you include me putting the nut certs in the bottom of the tailgate. So as I go back through those videos, they don't get a ton of views, and they are really, really crappy videos. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do the same thing I did with my fender flare videos. I'm gonna consolidate them all down to one video, edit them up as best I can. I went back through them yesterday and they are pretty terrible, but we'll try to make a coherent video on them in case someone else wants to do this to their TJ. They can see some of the challenges they will come up against. So if you're thinking about doing it, take a look at the video, see if it's something you'd want to do. I can tell you that the utility is 100 times better than the swing out. A few things are off the rip. Go ahead and buy a nut cert tool or get one and put your hinges in with nut cert tools. You'll see that in the video. The way I was doing it was just a ridiculous way. The accessibility to the back is greatly improved. I can swing my tire carrier all the way out and not have an issue. And the one latch over here, you'll have to grind this little nub down right here. I don't think I covered that in the actual video itself, but that way you don't have to adjust this. I go through adjusting this in the video. That one latch is enough to hold it up tight, especially if you have something that's holding up against, like my speaker here. But you don't have to have that. It holds it up tight. And it's a nice, satisfying thunk. Guys, check out the video. Let me know what you like. Let me know what you don't. And I'm going to try to delete some of the older videos that don't make sense. So enjoy. Today we're going to talk about the tailgate. What I'm going to do with this whole area, because right now this just isn't working out for me. On the flip side, I also want a drop down tailgate. For those that don't know, the TJ tailgate swings instead of flipping down. There's lots of ways to make it into a drop down. There's some kits you can buy online that are really nice. Not that expensive, anywhere from $150 to $200. Everything on this build is going to be budget friendly. So I'm going to try to do my drop down tailgate for as cheap as possible. I'm thinking sub $50. All right, so the first thing we have to do is make sure we can break these bolts loose. I've actually twisted that star nut right there pretty good. Started twisting my bit, and it's a quality bit I had. It's just in there. I have got behind it and sprayed it down with liquid wrench or, in my case, PB Blaster. Those are probably going to be easier than the ones in the body. You see a little bit of corrosion there on these. We're going to try some heat. I won't be reusing these bolts. We'll go ahead and take all this off so we can get the bare tailgate. So here's what I'm planning on using. This heavy duty hinge from a commercial door. You can buy CJ hinges that work real well. I want to do this now. I don't want to wait. So I'm going to try to do it with this. You can see one issue is that this hinge doesn't have a perfectly flat surface. Because you can see that would need to mount flat, and it won't. I'm going to remedy that with a metal plate across through here all the way down, and I may even put a metal plate up here all the way down, 2 different sizes, probably 1/8 and 3/16 to help mount these as well. One thing is I'm obviously going to tap these holes, but this sheet metal is not going to be strong enough probably for what I want it to be. I want this tailgate to hold at least 300-400 pounds. I weigh 250 by myself, so that means I've got to get a backing plate up under here. For those that don't know, you can't just get your hand up under there unless you drop the gas tank skid. First, let's work on getting the tailgate clean and clear. T27. I think these were actually T30, but the T27 worked just fine. 13 millimeter. Guys, I'm not sure what I'm going to do as far as a third brake light is concerned, but to get this off, I'm just going to go ahead and snip these wires. You can see it's just a double pair wire. If you're planning on reusing that, you can either unplug it from up here and feed this back down through, or you can just go ahead and cut it and then just mend it back. I always question myself about halfway through a build on why I'm doing it the stupid way, which is by hand when I have air tools at my disposal. Normally I don't have a good reason, I'm just an idiot. All right, I'm gonna use a regular little propane hand torch to heat those bolts. I'm gonna heat them, let them cool, and then heat them again. You want them to heat and cool and then heat again because that makes that metal expand and contract and will break loose some of those bonds a little bit better. Well guys, between the torx bit twisting and the splines getting eat up, I got I got 3 of the 6 that break loose. Of course, none of them all on the same side, so it sucks. So now I've got to go to plan B. All right guys, plan B is to weld this nut onto the head of that bolt and then get a big old hex head socket on it. I've seen it work in the past. Those bolts are flush and kind of recessed a little bit. Let's see what happens. Holy shit, that just worked. Problem is I don't have 2 more of these nuts to get the other ones off with. Bottom hinge is off, and you can see I had to do a couple of different things. All right, so I had to weld that on, and in order to get that off on the bottom one. The other one you can see still in there, I had to drill it out. So now I've still got this one. Now I've already welded this nut on, and it came right off. I can unscrew that one. I had to drill that one out as well. So once I get ready to pull the hinges off, I'll just drill the rest of that one out. I want it up there right now because I want the tailgate to be nice and sturdy as I lay out the hinges. I don't want to drop my skid, get up behind there, and try to get a plate back there. I don't think all that's going to be necessary. It may be, and if it is, I'll do it. But I'm at least going to give it a shot in a different way. Most of the weight of the tailgate will actually be on the chain or the cable that I'll have actually holding the outside edge, not the actual hinges. The hinges still have to be strong, they have to be there, and I'm pretty sure that 8 bolts on each side tapped through the body will be enough to keep them tight. So as you can see, I've got some drills, some holes drilled and tapped here in the back of the Jeep. So that'll go there, the hinge will go over it. The reason I'm using this plate is I'm gonna drill 3 more holes or 4 more holes right here, and I'm gonna tap those in as well with a little bit smaller screw. Then the hinge will be from this plate up to more holes that'll be drilled in the tailgate. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up both sides. This part, like I said, will just be holes drilled and tapped as well. And if that doesn't look like it's going to hold, I'll drill them all the way through and make sure the bolt is just the perfect length to put a nut on the back side, because this I can go all the way through on. It might not work. If it doesn't, then we'll go back to the drawing board. All right guys, the hinges are mounted. As you can see, it's kind of wet out here today, so we'll see how much I can get done. But there's a few things that that I didn't think about as I was laying this out. Number 1 is the connector for the third brake light. You see it right there, those 2 metal dots there. That's this piece. Normally it has this plastic cover over it. It sticks out past the seal, you can see right here. If you try to lay the tailgate down instead of swing it open, it'll get caught on this right here. So you have to remove that. This metal, body sheet metal, is pretty thick. I'm not sure what gauge it is, but it taps in pretty well with a couple of threads. And I think with 4 5/16 bolts, it'll be fine. Of course, I'm still going to put the self-tapping bolts in here. The tailgate, though, is a thinner gauge sheet metal. and it's going to be hit or miss. See that the hinges are mounted minus 1, 2, 3 bolts. I just ran out of nuts and bolts, and of course they're mismatched because actually Home Depot ran out of them. There's a few things I would do different, and let's talk about that. But as you can see, it does function. Functions fine. I don't have the lines ran yet for the supports. Number one, you have to move that striker back some so that this piece clears the bottom of it. Otherwise, because it's used to swinging out where there's no interference, and you can see, caused by the arc of how that goes, it would get caught right there at the bottom, and it was getting caught. So I had to move this striker. All you do is use a Torx to unscrew it. You just loosen it up and you can move it around. So I was able to move it up a little bit, but by moving it up, it doesn't fit as tight in here, and so it causes that. So when I last left off, I'd had the tailgate basically mounted. I didn't like the way it was mounted. I still don't, because I haven't changed that yet. But it does work. It works great. It raises, lowers. There's no real stress on the hinges. But for right now, I want to make it functional and make it work. And you can find these straps at any Advanced Auto Parts or AutoZone or something like that in the help section. These are Dodge Ram straps, and I had to figure out a way to make it to where the tailgate would lay flat. So my plan was to make this bracket, which I did, and it's just self-tapping screws in there. The bracket is very solid. With it on both sides and the hinges, it'll support a lot of weight. So the main problem is up here on the post that I made. You can see as I push down that it flexes. And I'm not putting much weight, maybe 30, 40 pounds right now on it. There's a reason that these posts in normally designed vehicles are made with a big square with 4 bolts in them and a post coming out. That's to spread out the weight. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a plate, then drill a hole in the middle and go ahead and go through this hole and bolt everything back up and reinforce the back side. I still have to do this side, and if you'll look, there's already a pre-cut hole there. That's the hole I used. I just drilled it out 1/2 inch to make that post. It's a shanked bolt, and I just nutted the front and the back side. So I already know one of the comments will be, why don't I just put a plate behind this on the back side? There's a body seam that runs diagonally right down through here. If I'd have planned it a little bit ahead, I probably could have moved it a little bit this way or this way to get around that body seam, but it still kind of cuts this in half right here. And so you can't really put a big plate back there, at least not with that seam there. Plate will go on the front side, screwed in. All right, I've got a shorter bolt, still got a slight shank on it, basically created by double nutting it. And I've got this plate. I'm going to drill and tap 4 bolts into it, but let's remove my brace and see if that alleviates some of the bending. Oh yeah, when I put those screws in there, that thing's going to be solid as can be. The reason it's cutting that weird shape is I just happened to have that scrap lying around cutting that shape, and I had 2 of them cutting that exact shape, and I didn't feel like cutting anything else today, so I just went ahead and used them. So I'm still going to have a goofy shape there. It's going to be painted black, whatever. It'll look the same on the other side. It's going to be covered up by the carpet anyway. To get up under where I'm putting this in, if you have your inner fenders in, you're going to have to take those out. I don't have my inner fenders in because I took them out whenever I put in the flat fenders. There is no give in that whatsoever. So that'll be covered up with this carpet. I'll drill a little hole in this to push down over that, and you'll never see that reinforcement plate. As I'm painfully close to getting this tailgate done, this was an unexpected complication. I thought I could put short metal tapping screws into this. When you take this up, this locking assembly pretty much takes up that whole room there. So what I'm gonna have to do is run some small machine screws up through the backside and then put the bracket down on it. And the bracket will be bent to adjust for this right here. And then that will bolt right to the bracket right there. All right, I'm done with my drop down tailgate. And I finished this side. Kind of see what I did here. I made a bracket that would bolt on. I had to bolt it in through the back side like we talked about earlier. And bolt that on to that shield that covers up the latch assembly. So that works great. But it holds pretty good. Perfect. Thank you.
I'm not done.
You can go back to raking. Oh Lord, killing me. All right, so I'm going to call that done. I mean, I still got to paint the brackets black. So let's close it up and see how it works. Perfect. If I was going to redo it, I would redo it by buying a pre-designed kit, probably from Swag or someone like that, just for time savings and usability and things like that. However, I only have probably $50 into it, which really isn't bad, and most of that are the straps. I think the hinges were $5 a piece. I had the scrap steel laying around. I probably spent $15 on nuts and bolts, and then $15 a piece. Well, $13 a piece on the straps, but after tax, probably closer to 15. So that's 30. Yeah, probably about 55, $60. And it works great. I'm gonna call it done. If anyone has any questions on how I did anything, please comment below or send me a message. Like the video, subscribe to my channel. If you like the video and kind of like what I'm doing with the Jeep, or if you don't like what I'm doing with the Jeep, let me know. And I guess I will see y'all in the next video. Thanks, guys.